Hi there, this is Brenda with Keenan Kreations, and I wanted to show you a card that my customers made today at class. This card uses a stamp set called Wetlands, and we're going to use a masking and sponging technique to create the background. You're going to start with Whisper White cardstock, measures 4 inches by 5 1/4. You're going to use Post-it notes to create a mask for sponging. And this is not quite wide enough to cover the whole sheet, so we're going to have to overlap them. So we're going to use the grid paper to give us a straight line to add the Post-it notes. So make sure your paper's on here straight. And I've got 2 Post-it notes that are stuck together. And so you're going to line this one up, and you're going to follow it all the way across here. So I've covered what's going to be the sky, and I'm going to start sponging this dark blue ocean line here. We're going to use Pacific Point. We're going to use one of our stamping sponges. I'm going to grip it here on the straight part so it curves this. You're going to pat on the ink pad. Most of the ink is going to be off the paper first. You don't want to go directly to your cardstock, or it's going to be too much and you're not going to be able to blend that out. You also want to go in a soft circular motion. So I'm going to start at the edge, and again, see how most of it is on the Post-it note, and then you're going to work your way into the cardstock. And I'm going to go down probably about halfway, and then I'm going to go all the way across. Again, soft circular motion. And go back to your ink pad and just pat, and again off the paper, soft circular motion. So I'm kind of having the ink concentrated on the ends and the top. It's going to be a lot lighter in the center where I'm stamping the birds. So every time I go to the ink pad, I start mostly off the paper, and then I work my way in. And it does take a few layers of this technique to get the color saturation that you want. Most people, or most of my customers in class, if they're not quite happy with how their card is turning out with all the sponging, they're really not done. They just need to keep sponging. I think they stop sponging too soon, and it's just not the color depth that they want. So they just need to keep sponging. So you can see we've kind of got this little bit of an arch going, right? So now that I've got most of the ink off this sponge, I'm just going to do a little swipe back and forth. And I'm only going about halfway, and I don't want a solid line here. It's up to you how dark you want this part to be, but I think darker is better than lighter. So now I'm going to work on the sandy part. I'm going to use Crumb Cake. Now I'm going to turn this. I'm right-handed, so it's just easier for me to work this angle. So I'm going to hold this paper down. I'm going to start mostly off the paper and the corners, soft circular motion, and just kind of work my way along the bottom. I know I keep saying soft circular motion, but that's the best way that I can describe this. It's better to have too little ink than too much. You can always go back and add more ink, but you're not going to be able to take it away. We're going to be stamping our birds here, and we don't want this background to be too dark. And so once most of that ink is off, I can kind of go back and forth. So I actually like the way this looks right now. I can always go back and add a little more sponging if I think it needs it. I'm going to take a peek and see what this ocean is looking like. So I'm just going to lift this up and see how nice and dark that is. I actually think that's a great color. So I'm going to remove my mask, and you can see we have a nice straight horizon line. So I'm going to sponge the sky with Soft Sky, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Starting mostly off the paper and a soft circular motion. And it's okay that we overlap this really light blue on this dark blue, because you're not going to see that. And then once most of that ink is off, you can do a little swiping back and forth. Okay, so I'm really happy with the way the sky looks, the ocean, and the sandy areas. Now we're going to stamp our images. We're going to use a stamp set called Wetlands. We're going to stamp these little guys in Black Stazon. So I'm going to twist, tap, tap, and this is pretty much going right in the center here. So just press that down. And we're going to stamp some grasses on the right and left side. We're going to use garden green ink. So you're going to tap, tap on your ink pad, and we're going to stamp this a couple of times. So I'm going to stamp one a little bit lower and off the paper, and then a second one overlapping to the right. We're going to repeat on this side. The first one's a little bit low and off the paper, and the second one is higher up and to the left. I'm going to use a Crumb Cake marker, the brush tip. There's a fine tip here and a brush tip on the other end. And I'm just going to add just a little bit of color to the bird bodies. And then I'm going to use just a little bit right here, just kind of sketchy little strokes for the shadows. Okay, we're going to add some linen thread on the left side. I'm just going to measure 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to double that. Leaving it doubled, I'm going to go around the back and tie a knot in the front. We're going to trim off the excess and scoot this down. We're going to layer this onto Crumb Cake cardstock. It measures 5.5 by 8.5, and it's scored down the middle at 4 1/4. Add adhesive around all the edges, and this gets layered to the front. Pretty quick and easy, a fun technique using Post-it notes to mask and your sponges to create a nice soft background. I hope you enjoyed this project. For more ideas, you can visit me at KeenanCreations.com. Thanks and have a great day.